I will never sleep again. I will never sleep again.
Welcome to Never Sleep Again.
Your source for sci-fi and horror movie reviews.
I'm Jonathan,
And I'm Veronica.
and today we will be reviewing Final Destination.
Yes, it's going to be the first Final Destination. As we know, if you're familiar with the franchise at all, it's a franchise. And so there are many more films in the series, but for today's review, it's just going to be the first one.
Yes, that's the very first one.
Yes. However, before we get into the review, some of you may have noticed that we kind of took a little bit of a break. But we are back.
It's a bit of a break. Yeah. We've been gone a pretty long time.
Yes, but
a few months, but we're back.
We're back. For those of you who hung in there, we thank you for sticking by us, and we hope to have more reviews, more content for you coming soon. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump right into
let's
it.
Get into it.
Yeah. So, Final Destination. It's basically a story about a high school kid. He's going on a field trip. It's a senior year field trip.
Right.
They're actually a pretty cool senior year field trip.
Yeah, they're going to Paris.
They're going to Paris. Like, whose school does that? I don't know. Mine didn't.
Right? They went to a special... Not all schools are created equal.
No.
When you just get a trip to Paris.
To Paris?
That was kind of unheard of.
Right. I think I went to Six Flags.
You know what?
We had a good day. It was fun, but
that's a part of the film that holds up pretty well, even till today. Because I remember when the movie came back that long ago.
Yeah.
And that was such a cool aspect of the movie, was that these high schoolers are going on a trip to Paris, and that's still a pretty cool trip.
It really is. Yeah. Well, they all pack their bags to get on the plane, and this kid, Alex, he has a premonition that everyone's going to die on the plane. And so the story just takes off from there, where we have some survivors, Alex included. And throughout the story, death is basically trying to kill them in the order in which they would have died on the plane had they not switched seats. So
right, and that's it. That's the movie.
That's the movie.
That's the whole review. We thank you all for chilling with us. We'll see you next.
Yeah, right. No. So we're actually going to get more into it, but we do recommend that you watch the movie if you haven't seen it. This is it's a pretty old movie by this point, by today's standards.
By these standards.
So if you haven't seen it, why haven't you seen it?
What year did this come out? 2000?
I should know that, right? We'll put it in the notes for the video. what year the movie came out in, but it's been some years, and some parts of the movie hold up until today, as you mentioned. Others do not. We're just going to kind of give you a rundown of what did work for us and what didn't work for us.
But before we do that, we got some pretty cool trivia. This is a movie that was directed by James Wan and Jeffrey Riddick. And apparently Riddick had originally wrote this as a possible screenplay for The X-Files.
Yeah.
And one of his, a colleague of his, had pushed him to release it as a feature-length film, and I thought that was pretty cool. We can, we'll put the source for that in the description.
Yeah.
For the video. That
was pretty cool when I found that out. Now, it would have made for a really awesome X-Files episode for sure. But we probably wouldn't have had the movie that we have today, and the subsequent films.
Right.
So
although I think it would have been cool as an X-Files episode, I don't really think. I think after watching the movie, and who knows how they would have done it for an episode of X-Files, but after watching the movie, I feel like it's too big of an idea and could create more complications within X-Files. X-Files already has a lot going on. You have the aliens, and you have this other government sect outside of FBI. Oh well, no, I don't want to spoil X-Files for anybody. So,
man, I'm sorry if you haven't seen X-Files now either.
I know right now. I don't really
care if we're spoiling it.
But my heart was in the right place, and that's why I stopped talking. For those of y'all that might want to be getting into it this late.
But I definitely agree with you because, you know, they would basically be introducing like a kind of supernatural aspect into the show.
This evil Grim Reaper entity.
Right.
Basically, if they were following the rules of the movie, I guess if one of the main characters might have been on the plane or even not because it's an entity, then for the rest of the series we would have to watch Mulder and Scully and other characters have to constantly watch out for this death entity, which would be too complicated. No. So good choice on making it a feature-length film. It went on to make however many sequels, continuing to make money after all this time. So, you know, good on them.
Good on them. And I actually, back then when it came out, I didn't realize that James Wan was involved. So, right. You know, kind of makes sense when you look at it now. Like,
judging on how old we might have been back then, I don't think we would have, you know, when we saw that name, we wouldn't even have noticed.
Wouldn't have cared that much.
Right, because this is way before The Conjuring and other things like that. So we wouldn't just be like, oh, cool, James Wan.
That's a good point.
Right.
Yeah. All right. Well, why don't you share with us what did work for you with this film?
The first thing, so this takes me right back to the age thing. Yeah. So, given our age, very nostalgic. You know, just when you watch this movie, if you haven't already, you will know that you are watching a late 90s, 2000s movie. Yeah. It gives it a certain type of charm. And I liked that about the movie. A lot of the movies now, I feel, are a little bit. It's good that they're polished, but they're a little bit too polished. Okay. And sometimes this is not a bad thing. Sometimes you don't really feel like you're watching a movie. Yeah. But with this, it's like you immediately know you're watching a movie. You can make correct assumptions about what time frame what time this movie came out around, and that worked for me. Okay. Tony Todd is in the movie. Yeah.
Very cool.
Today I'm just easy to please with this one. Tony Todd's in the movie, and I really enjoyed that with the movie. Something that happens toward kind of as we're getting closer to the end of the movie. One of the characters, Carter, who is basically like the rival of the main character, he pisses his pants. Yeah. And that I really thought that part was cool because not a lot of horror movies at that time really depicted they didn't really go out of their way to try to depict what happens when people are really afraid, you know. People, this could happen to somebody for not just if they're being pulled from a car like this character was. He was about to be hit by a train while in his car, and another character, the main character, comes to pull him out of the car, and when they get him out of the car, you can clearly see that he peed all in his pants. That happens to people in real life. There have been people who have had to defend themselves, and they defended themselves successfully, but they're peed all in their pants, and especially for it to have been a movie from so long ago, right? And they didn't even really point it out. Right. Like, it happened, we just noticed it. They didn't make a big joke out of it or anything. No. It was just like, wow, this dude's pants are clearly wet. He peed on them. Because they had bigger problems. The car just got wrecked by a big train. And I thought that was cool. That's one of the parts of this movie that really hold up really well today. No, I agree. What works for you? I remember the first time I saw this movie, and it kind of scared the mess out of me, just the whole concept, which I think is a really great, concept. You have people who basically cheated death. Right. But did they really? Not quite, because death is coming back. Coming to get what he is due. So, I thought saying they cheated it suggests that they successfully avoided any more trouble with death, but death is clearly winning in this, even when I would go as far as to say that death even made them think they were winning at times, just to back off, see how they react, and then just get back in there.
very cold.
Very.
But so I thought that made for a great story, and
I
you know, it was interesting seeing how that all played out. I really liked the intro and the psych
Very
out,
cool.
basically.
Yes.
When you see it for the first time, you think that it's actually happening. There's really no indication that this was all just a premonition. So I thought that was done really well.
Right.
And you know, it kind of played with my emotions a little.
Although I will say that I saw the trailers back in the day.
Yeah.
I saw the trailer for the movie back in the day. That part ruined that moment for me.
Okay.
It was still cool to see,
Yeah.
but in the trailer, they put that in the trailer. And you know what I gotta say? I say it ruined it for me very loosely, because it didn't really ruin it all that much for me, because there was, and this kind of goes back into what worked for me. I kind of forgot to put this down in my notes. Of course I have notes. But there wasn't really any other movies like this in the for horror movies. Usually in a horror movie, the boogeyman or boogie woman is a person or a physical presence that's there, that's trying to stab somebody, trying to, you know, choke somebody, or it's a doll or something like that, or a leprechaun or something. In this movie, it's just like a force of nature or some spirit that they can't really see.
Right.
And we haven't really had anything like that before this.
Right, yeah. By that point,
right.
there weren't many movies like that. Now we have, like, you know, a lot of ghosts or like demons or spirits that are haunting and terrorizing, but, you know, having just like an unknown like entity, they just kind of just assume it's death.
They just assume it's
following
death.
them, and you know, it's not something that really was
they
done.
can't see it. Before, up until that movie, I thought the worst thing was probably Freddy, because how could you fight Freddy? He's in your dreams. How can you escape him? This is kind of worse.
Yeah.
You know, you can't see it. It's not waiting for you to go to sleep. It's just trying to get you. This thing could get you anywhere.
Yeah.
And about the psych out, going back to the psych out, if you watch the trailer, the original trailer for this, you'll see exactly what Veronica means.
Yes. See, I don't remember the trailers.
Yeah.
I don't know if I was paying attention to them back then. So it did come as a shock to me. And I'm glad, because, you know,
Yeah.
sometimes they put too much in the trailers and they can kind of ruin some of the shock
Show
value
you the whole
in the movie.
Or the best parts of the movie are all in the trailer.
So
That's
wasn't
lame.
ruined for me. So I was glad when I first saw this years ago.
All you movie makers out there, stop putting the whole movie in the trailer.
Please, you know, leave a little to the imagination. We want to be surprised, somewhat anyway, when we see the movie.
Right.
Yep. So there was that. I also really liked the scene where the plane explodes.
That was
Because, yes, for our hero, I love that it kind of proves to everybody that he was telling the truth. Like, that scene, I kind of got chills. Even now, like, rewatching the movie,
Yes.
it's kind of like, okay, this guy was telling the truth. You all just survived because of him. And, you know, it's a very sobering moment for a lot of them. Everybody, like, gets quiet and they're just kind of staring at him, like...
Except for the one guy that calls him a witch.
Yes, except for him. Yes.
Or a warlock.
A warlock. Yeah, but I thought that was really well done.
Yeah.
And also the creative ways in which the
people
entity,
died.
tries to kill them. It's, like, really intricate. The way they came up with, you know... It's almost like Home Alone traps, or
Yeah, right.
like booby traps that have just really been set up, and I thought they were really creative with that.
I like that you mentioned that, because one of the characters, some of these incidents you could kind of see coming from a mile away. You know, I won't ruin the movie, but for example, somebody's sitting down and there's a wrecking ball behind them, or a bulldozer. You kind of know something's gonna happen with it. It doesn't take away from the movie.
Yeah.
One of the characters she makes sculptures, so you'll see her with a welding mask and a torch, and so you know something's gonna happen.
Yeah, you're thinking,
later
okay,
on with
this
that,
can't be
yeah.
good. Yeah.
Right. You start to have that dread, and you're just like, okay, something's going to happen with that torch. There's going to be a fire.
Right. Yeah. So with that being said, what did not work for you with Final Destination?
Well, there's a scene at the beginning, okay, and you talked about some of the foreshadowings in the movie. So there was a foreshadowing in the movie that was really heavy-handed, and it was very cheesy.
Yeah.
And we maybe we'll put a screenshot or something, maybe not, but you know, either way, watch the movie for yourself. So it's at the beginning of the movie, and Alex, the main character, is getting all packed. Well, he's all packed for his trip, and he's talking to his mom and his dad, and his father says something kind of like, "Live it up, Alex. You've got your whole life ahead of you." And okay, so that's a foreshadowing. That's fine. But the reaction that Alex has after his dad, he just looked like something like that.
Yeah,
you know, nobody
really foreboding. Like,
right.
Who's gonna react that way?
Right to their dad. It did seem like it was suggested that he had a really good relationship with both his mom and his dad. So I don't know why he looked at his dad like that.
It was weird.
It would have been funny if the father had a reaction like, "Why are you looking at me?"
Yeah, I know, right? Like, that's what I was saying. It's
Yeah.
like, you know, you ready for the trip? Like, you want to go? Like,
right.
Yeah.
Right. And you mentioned the plane scene blowing up in the sky. So after everybody's being all somber, and after the plane explodes and it proves Alex was telling the truth, we have these FBI agents that are introduced in the movie, and they just immediately suspect Alex, and they let the audience know by looking directly at Alex when they say some things. They really did. I've never had a run-in with the FBI. I want to assume that a special agent, if they suspected me or somebody near me, that they wouldn't just show their whole hand.
I know.
And just be like, well, sometimes some unsavory characters
right. Look directly at you.
They looked directly at him after they said so. I thought that was corny.
Yeah.
I thought that was just, you know, it took me out of the story. You know, it was pretty funny. I don't think that somebody would act that way, which kind of leads me into one of my main problems. There are these situations in which people don't really react to situations in a way that I think is natural or real. So you already heard one example of that kind of that was with the FBI agents, which I thought that was really bad. Another scene is when Alex's his best friend, Todd. His best friend Todd is in the bathroom. His brother died on the flight, but we just see him getting ready. He doesn't really look sad or anything. That's not that important, but it's in itself, that's not really important that he doesn't look sad. It's just because if he looked sad, it could at least explain what I'm going to say next. So he's checking out his face in the mirror. He picks up a razor blade, and we can clearly see that he doesn't have any hair on his face.
No.
He tilts his chin up, and he immediately takes the razor blade to one part of his neck where there's really no hair there. We don't even see like a little patch of some peach fuzz. We don't even see a patch of some peach fuzz or something. And he just proceeds to cut himself as as fast as he can. Just cut, and we see the blood, and then he's just like, and then he just goes, and the way he's moving is he looks like he doesn't really know what he's doing in the bathroom. He looks at his nose, and he starts feeling around in his nose, and he picks up some tweezers, and he's going at it in a way that just seems really strange. And all the while that he's doing this, we can see the entities making like a liquid or some, was it water or something?
Water from the toilets.
From the toilets, like go. I guess it's thinking about trying to make him slip or something. And then we see he just like in the middle of getting his nose hairs, he plugs in a stereo, and then he hears a song. It's this recurring song, played by
John
Denver. Rocky Mountain High is playing throughout the movie, and it comes on, and I guess it spooked him because we heard the song earlier at the airport, and so he unplugs it, but a spark comes out. It was just really strange. It would have been better if they had him come into the bathroom, had him looking like he's grieving, and maybe toying with the idea of maybe,
with the razor or something.
With the razor, something with the razor. We got to be careful.
Yeah.
You know the deal. Algorithm.
Yes.
Anyway, the next thing that I didn't like, that I thought was weird. Again, somebody just not acting naturally. The whole movie would have been much better for me if people acted more natural. Now, the main character, Alex, he's in his room about the same time that his friend is in the bathroom. At that point in the movie, he's reading a magazine with ladies in it, and an owl comes up to his window, and his reaction is he takes his magazine and he just like throws it at the window. And I was just like, what's the point of this? I just thought it was a little weird. I don't think that's how anybody would react. If you think that that's the way anybody would react, is to if an owl came to your window, you would throw a magazine at it or throw something at the window. Let us know in the comments.
Please
just let us know that we're nitpicking, and you would absolutely react that way. Other than that, I have no other.
Yeah, that's it for you. Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
unless I think of something else.
Yeah, you'll let us know. Well, you actually touched on a couple of things that didn't work for me as well. One of those, and we'll just continue from where you left off, were the reactions of some of the people.
Yeah.
It's like there was so much death. People lost friends. They lost family, mentors, like teachers, and it kept happening. And I just feel like
crazy ways.
In such crazy, outrageous ways where they were in pain and probably terrified. I feel like the reactions to grief were not as realistic as it could have been. I know that people have varied reactions when it comes to grieving the loss of a loved one, but I feel like pretty much everyone's reaction was the same, with the exception of what's Miss Luton. Miss Luton, she was the only one I saw who actually cried. Well, at any point,
kind of.
Did you? Well, you feel differently?
I feel like she had a reaction to Alex.
Okay, she did. Yeah, she was scared of him.
Right, she was scared of him instead of just being scared in general. Yeah. A lot of focus was placed on Alex. Mm-hmm.
That's true.
And other than that, we saw her cooking and getting ready.
She did cry a bit, but dude, even when they were in the they went to the funeral home where we saw the great Tony Todd as the mortician.
Yes,
they were in the funeral home watching him work on Todd's body. This is Clear and Alex. Clear Rivers.
Clear Rivers.
That's, interesting name. Kind of cool, but a little over the top. I feel like they're trying really hard there. But anyway, Clear and Alex are inside of the funeral home, and they're talking with Tony Todd, who's doing a great job of being like super creepy. Yeah. But while he's doing this, he is also working on Todd's body, and it's like there's no you could see that they're kind of a little creeped out. But there's no true emotion to the fact that this is your friend. Like, his body is laying there mangled and bruised, and this man is cutting into him. Like, none of it seemed realistic. Right. So that really wasn't working for me. And maybe they weren't going for that ultra realism. That's fine.
Right.
Some movies are like that, and you just kind of take them as they are and just enjoy them despite that. But for me, I didn't really like that aspect of it.
Yeah, no, it was just weird. Even if it wasn't at that, watching somebody being embalmed. It's even if it wasn't their friend, it's just that the fact that it's a body there.
Yeah.
The way they have these teenagers, these high schoolers act as if they've worked like 15 years at the coroner's office.
I know, right? Like you're just used to seeing bodies. Right. You're used to seeing people die,
Eating lunch down there.
Yeah.
It's just, no reaction to the smelling or anything like that.
Exactly.
So,
No, I didn't care for that. Something else that you touched on, it happened in the beginning with
the dad.
The dad.
The mom and
yes,
the dad.
the mom and the dad.
Yeah.
That kind of goes along with something else that didn't work for me, and that was basically like these overt omens that we kept seeing in the beginning of the film.
Many of them.
There were so many of them, and they were just so obvious. It was just in your face. Omen here, omen there, omen here. Like it was just too much. I couldn't take it. And even throughout the film, there are these omens that are kind of alerting you to the fact that someone's going to die. Those made a little more sense to me, but in the beginning, I would have appreciated a little more subtlety. And, then we kind of see how the story unfolds and think back to what we did see. We can kind of put the pieces together that these were, in fact, omens. Like, I prefer that.
Yeah,
but
after the first 3 times,
dude, they did it.
Get it
over and over again.
Even just with the subject material at hand, just what's taking place. I feel like the plane, that was enough. Okay, he has a dream. Okay, he had that dream, which was a premonition.
Yeah,
that was enough. And then later on, I guess it was effective to keep doing it up until the viewers and the characters on screen understand that it's going in order of the seating on the plane. After that, the movie, in my opinion, had 2 good legs to stand on.
Yeah. Okay. I'd agree with that. There were a couple of other things, though, that didn't work for me. And kind of goes along with what you just said.
Right.
That was the fact that Alex would have these omens, but he's not really sharing with the crew what they are. There's a scene where Alex and Claire are sitting outside at like a cafe at a table, and we see Miss Luton come outside, Terry and what's his name, Carter. Terry and Carter pull up, and all of a sudden Alex sees a vision of a bus on the window of this like cafe. However, when he looks over to the street, there is no bus in sight. So it's like, dude, this is an omen. You can tell that he recognizes it, but he says nothing about it. Like, he never tells them.
Yeah.
Maybe he could have saved Terry's life if he was like, guys, watch out. Like, a bus is about to come through here or something,
Right. And the amount of time that passed between him seeing the bus and the bus actually appearing, that was a long time.
It was a long time.
It was enough time for him and Alex. Well, him and what was the other guy's name? Carter. It was enough time for him and Carter to catch hands with each other.
I know.
So it was enough time. They almost get in a fight. Carter's girlfriend breaks it up, and she gets hit by a bus. Yeah.
She walks into the street, and by the way, that scene like really shocked me when I saw it for the first time. I was not ready for that. Like, I wasn't ready for it, dude. Like, it happened just like that. And that was pretty cool. Maybe I should have mentioned that before, but
speaking of should have mentioned before, that's her death is what didn't work for me in the movie. She just got when you watch this movie, she gets exploded like a water balloon against that bus, and everybody gets over it in like 2 seconds. There was not really any on-screen mourning of her death. That's true. On there, we see her boyfriend get a little pissed off, and he tries to carve her name onto this big headstone that they have that was for the people that died in the plane crash. But that's it, you know. It's just like, this is your. She appeared to be close to everybody,
you know, close enough.
Yeah,
they're all classmates.
She was on good terms with Alex.
Yeah.
She had nothing against him, even though Carter did. And so I would like to think that even if I didn't know you that well, if I saw you get hit by a bus, whether you died or not, you know, I'm gonna be visibly sad that you got hit.
That goes back to what I was saying. It's like the reactions to grief and, you know, to the deaths rather. It just it made no sense.
No sense. Nobody would react that way.
Yeah, man. Well, I have another thing, and that didn't work for me. And I understand that Alex is a high school student. He's a high school senior, so he's still basically like a kid, you know? Right. And he still is thinking with certain mentality. However, he really had no sense of self-preservation.
None at all.
He kept making himself look sus to the FBI.
Yeah.
He knew that the FBI was following him, watching his every move, and he constantly would appear at these what they're determining are crime scenes. Like, you know, people are dying randomly in such strange, you know, circumstances, and here he is at every last one. So I feel like the thing that took the cake was Miss Luton.
Her car.
Dude, he was out there checking her car. That looks so suspicious.
The FBI catches him with his hands on her car tire.
Yeah.
That was grounds, right? Even I would have made a citizen's arrest on him if I saw him do that. I would have literally thought it was him.
Yeah, all this time, just him.
Yeah,
and he was some kind of, you know, mastermind. He was able to subvert the police.
Right,
and you know, he really was caught basically red-handed. They let him go, and what does he do? He goes right back to her house. And by this point, Miss Luton is being attacked by the entity. And so there's blood on the ground. Her throat is cut. There's a knife sticking out of her torso. And what does he do? He walks right in there. He steps in the blood. He grabs the knife with his bare hands. And then I feel like he has a moment of realization, like, oh crap, I'm holding this knife. He drops it, doesn't bother to wipe off the prints, like, or take it with him to just dispose of it. I'm sorry, it's like he was asking to get arrested. I couldn't take it. You know, that was really bothering me throughout the movie.
Yeah, he also made sure that his face wasn't covered or anything.
Yeah.
So he comes outside. Another main character sees him. He's the last person that would have undoubtedly seen the teacher alive.
Yeah.
Just seconds later, her house explodes. So not only did he leave like his prints and his shoe print back in the house, he also has provided the FBI now with an eyewitness, putting him at the scene of the crime. Apparently this guy never heard of binoculars or anything to just watch, because I do understand that he has to watch these other characters to try to figure out if his little theory about the plane seating is correct,
and to try to save them,
and to try to save them.
But that was not the way.
He could have safely done some of this from a distance. He could have worked with the FBI or local police to say, "Hey, I have this theory. This sounds crazy. You might not believe me or not, but maybe we can get some priests, some exorcist involved, or you know what? The least you can do is have one car parked out of everybody's house just to verify, just to see that I'm not crazy. Bring cameras, just so you can see that I'm not crazy." We get the idea that this entity was going to kill anyway, and doesn't really care who's around.
Yeah.
So it gave us no indication that it cares in this movie. We'll have to watch the other ones, but in this movie, the first one, for all of you, you know, who might say, hey, and the other ones, You know,
Yeah,
so
we're not-
we're just talking about this first movie.
Right.
In this first movie, the entity gives us no reason to believe that it cares who's watching at all. It was going to get you anywhere. It was going to get you anyway. It was going to get you anywhere, which was an aspect of the movie I liked. But he could have worked with the police and the FBI.
Yeah, he could have at least tried. Like, he really didn't
Right.
try to work with them.
Right.
You know, maybe they would have believed him, or maybe
He
they would
wanted
have
to look
tried.
crazy.
Yeah, I just
He
at
wanted
this
to
point,
look
I
like
just
he
have
did
to imagine. And you know, one more thing. It's like, with that being said, I don't understand why he was never booked and processed for the death of Miss Luton, because
They had everything they needed.
everything
They had a
needed.
shoe print. They had his handprint on the handle of the knife.
Yes, the murder weapon. Like everything they would have needed. Eyewitness account of him leaving. They saw them with their own eyes, and he
Right.
looked suspicious on her property. He had no business
They
being
placed
on her
him
property.
at the property before.
Yeah,
So how he escaped, man, his parents must have some good lawyers.
I know, because we see that, like, you know, one of the final scenes where he actually saves Clear from
Right.
getting, you know, killed by the entity, and the FBI agents witness this. That's not enough to absolve him from the death of Miss Luton with all that evidence, you know.
Right. They just showed up and they saw him do one
Right.
act of self-sacrifice, and they're just like, so he didn't do it.
Right, I know,
was
that's
just-
what we're left to believe, right?
And it's like, no, you clearly placed him at the scene of the crime.
Yes.
A murder scene twice.
Mm-hmm.
So no.
No.
Right, he goes to jail. So I just, you know, whatever.
That's what happened. Movie ended, you know.
That's the end of the movie.
This guy never goes to jail, so, you know.
Right.
But overall, it was enjoyable to watch, and, you know, pretty nostalgic, as you mentioned, definitely for me too.
Yeah.
And with everything we have discussed, and after rewatching the movie recently, how would you rate it based on our rating system?
Based on our rating system, I'm gonna go ahead and say that this movie, if you're looking for something to watch, you know, it's Friday night, you know, you had a long week of work, you don't really want to think too hard about what you're watching, you don't want a horror that's too, you know, cerebral or high cinema or whatever. You know, you don't want to work too hard to have a good time. This is a great movie. You're gonna have fun watching this movie. It's fun the entire time. We had some criticisms, but make no mistake, this movie does not really slow down.
Yeah.
This movie starts off hot and it just keeps rolling, you know, until even to the end of the movie. The action is there. It's funny as well too. It's funny sometimes on purpose and sometimes on accident. It's a fun movie to watch, and given how old the movie it still holds up pretty well in different ways. So my rating overall is release day.
Oh,
I actually would give it a release day if I could see this. If I could have seen it on the release day. I think at the time I was probably still a little bit too young to go to go to the movies, you know, myself, or with somebody of the, you know, same age.
Mm-hmm.
I would have seen this on the release day. So how did you rate it?
Well, definitely I agree with what you stated as far as, you know, it's the pacing, and it just really was an enjoyable movie overall. However, I have a tough time overlooking some of the faults. And also, I feel like sometimes when we're reviewing some of the more nostalgic movies, I feel like the nostalgia can cloud my judgment a bit. So for this movie, as enjoyable as it was, I have to kind of ding it a little bit because of the things that I did not care for.
Yeah.
So I'm actually going to go with good, worth the money. So, you know, maybe not release day. Maybe you see it as a matinee. If it was re-released in the theaters today, you know. Maybe you see it after the initial release has happened. But I feel like it's, that's a good solid place for it. Just, worth the money. So you're going to enjoy it. You're going to have a good time, but it's probably not going to be the best of the best.
Right. I agree with that.
Yeah.
But you should still see it the release day.
Oh, you're holding true. You're holding true to your rating. That's fine.
Either way, with both of our ratings, you can't go wrong with this movie. We would never steer you wrong here.
Yeah. So check it out, definitely. And if you have seen the movie, let us know in the comments what you thought about it. What would you have rated the movie? And if you haven't seen it, go check it out. It's available on where do we find it? HBO Max.
HBO Max.
Yeah, and I'm sure that it's available on other services.
You've got to be able to find this anywhere easily. Yeah.
All right. Well, we thank you for hanging in there with us and checking out our review. As always, we want to give a great big shout out and thanks to our friends Betamaxx and Vandal Moon for allowing us to use their song Never Sleep Again. You should definitely check out their music as soon as possible. They have some really great stuff out there. We have links in the description.
They've got really great music because they created the best theme song in the world.
Yes, they did. So check them out. We have links in the description. And that's all for today.
Yeah, thanks for sitting in with us. This has been Never Sleep Again. I'm Jonathan.
And I'm Veronica. Stay awake.